Chungmuro, an area located in the heart of Seoul, has long been known as the place where Korean filmmakers gathered and films were made. Recently, a new public film culture space, the Seoul Film Center, opened its doors in Chungmuro. Today, we'll take a closer look at why Chungmuro became the center of Korean cinema and what this new space represents. And we'll do that with Jae Soh, professor and filmmaker at Seoul Institute of the Arts. Hello, Professor Soh. Welcome back.
Professor.
Nice to be back.
All right, so let's start off with some background here. How has Chungmuro earned its title as the heart of Korean cinema? And also, personally, what kind of place is that for you as well?
Chungmuro, we still call it Chungmuro actually,
Yeah.
although it's not there anymore. But actually, it's a region in Seoul, which is very, culturally located, and it's actually really the Hollywood of Korea. That's what we used to call it. And basically, there's all around there. There's a cinema complex called Dansongsa, which is no longer around. But basically, there was like the first movie theater in Seoul that opened up there, and then a lot of film companies in the '60s started making movies there. So there's like labs to develop films and things like that. And also, it's also known today as sort of printing alley, where a lot of people go to get your books or pamphlets or posters done. But my impression of it is, Seoul Institute of the Arts is actually located very close to Namsan.
Right.
And so my students, I would give them assignments. And so they would shoot a movie and then they'd rush to the lab in Chungmuro to get it developed for the class, like that. And then photography students, also a lot of design students were just like there getting their, work done. So I just remember it's kind of nostalgic. And even if you go to the Chungmuro station, the subway station, if you go downstairs, there's displays of all like the Korean cinema, like the making of the famous movies, the stars, things like that. So it's definitely like, something in the past that unfortunately it doesn't exist there anymore, but it's still like a great place to go eat good food if you are interested in that. Yeah.
It is. I mean, there also used to be a radio station that's not there anymore where
Right,
I used to
TBS.
work as well.
Yeah.
That is why I also have that nostalgic feeling of that place, just like you, Professor Soh. But now we are going to talk about this new place that opened, right, Bella?
A new public film culture space actually recently opened in Chungmuro, the Seoul Film Center. So what does this offer, and how do you think that what's the significance of this venue?
Well, it's long coming. Actually, the development of that started like in 2020. They were going to finish it in 2020, but because of COVID, it got delayed. But it's called the Film, the Film Center, Seoul Film Center, and it's basically a center that opened up this year, but it's centered on independent films and also art films. And there's like 3 theaters there. There's a exhibit hall, there's a multi-purpose hall, and on the roof there's even a rooftop cinema. So it's really dedicated to sort of cinema, showing a lot of retrospective works from now on, independent cinema, student films, and also there's going to be education where a lot of people interested in the movie industry could come and learn how to make movies. And so there are workshops and things like that. So it's something long coming that we've been sort of expecting, and I'm really excited because, the university I teach at, Seoul Institute of the Arts, is going to show their graduation films on the 24th there. So we're really excited to look at our films in a big, cool spot with a really high-tech equipment now.
That sounds very meaningful, and I would really like to try out the rooftop
I
cinema
know.
as
Yeah,
well.
although it's kind of cold right now.
Yeah.
I would say it's more towards
maybe
the
in
summer.
spring
Yeah,
or
yeah.
summer, yes. But Professor Soh, the opening of this whole film center, it has been met with high expectations, but also some controversy, some criticism within the film community. So could you please tell us what that is about?
Yeah, there's a sort of a protest when it opened in November, and basically it's a very long history. It started with a different mayor, Park Won-sun, and then basically at that time there was it was called the Cinematheque, and it showed a lot of movies, and it was in Nagwon Sanga, which is near like Insa-do, and they had rented the space, and they were always kind of like it was kind of very not a good facility to go see movies there. And so they've been asking to build sort of a Cinematheque in Seoul. So originally it wasn't going to be called the Film Center, it was going to be called the Cinematheque Seoul or something like that. And then, with a new change in mayor, they decided to kind of change the purpose of that. And so there's a lot of controversy between the original people that have been running those things and, the present, administration. And also, there's also in Seoul the film archive, which stores films and it also has a cinematheque. So people are asking, like, why do we need two of these things? But for me, the more the better. So.
The more the better, yes,
Yeah,
definitely. So we now have Chungmuro in Korea representing the Korean cinema. Are there any examples abroad that's kind of similar to Chungmuro? Maybe like a street or a cinema that kind of transformed from like a major film hub to now a cultural space?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is kind of based on the La Cinémathèque in Paris, and it's sort of in the Latin quarters, if you're interested in that. And basically, it's not as industrial or like, office spaces like Chungmuro, but it was a kind of an intellectual center for a lot of filmmakers that kind of wanted to see world cinema, things like that. So it's based on that. In London, if you go to Soho, there's a film center that's like that, and also in Rome, there's Cinecittà Via Veneto, which is basically like, in its heyday, it was like where all the cool stars hung out. So it's there are precedents for this kind of cinematheque all over the world, for sure.
Probably filmmakers and film experts like you, Professor Soh, whenever you travel around the world, you probably are trying to make those stops at those film-related venues. So maybe Seoul Film Center will become such a venue for other filmmakers from around the world whenever they make a visit to Seoul that they would love to try out and make a visit here.
Yes, for sure. I think it's going to be definitely like a cultural center where if you go there, it's not only watching films, but you get to eat a lot of good Korean food as well, because it's near Uljiro and also basically Namsan and Myeongdong.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And another thing that we want to mention is that the important role of the public film culture space. What do you think they should play, and what makes them kind of different from the commercial movie theaters?
Well, commercial movies are really meant for profit. So all the filmmakers want to they have a star, and then, you want to make a lot of money. But I think these movie theaters are more towards like the celebration of cinema, promoting art films, and movies that are not exactly commercial. So, excuse me. So basically, it's a chance for you to watch like movies that you've never seen before, also retrospectives of famous filmmakers in the past. Also exhibits of items from maybe, people who want to maybe see like how Parasite was made, things like that. So it's a celebration of cinema itself. So I think culturally it's going to be kind of exciting for everybody. It's not just for cinema lovers, but just anybody interested in Korean culture would be really welcome as well at the center.
Definitely, yes. And another thing we do want to mention is we see a shift in the way we view movies as well. So, from the era of OTT to now mobile platforms are very widely expanded. So what is it that still kind of draws people to those physical cinemas? We go to still theaters to watch movies. We've talked about some movies previously as well. And also like a public film space like Chungmuro we mentioned.
Well, I've mentioned on the show many times, like after COVID, our sort of like the audience sort of patterns and behaviors have really changed. And now it seems like people prefer to watch movies on streaming platforms like Netflix or Coupon Play, things like that. So I think these film centers are really important because it's a way to get people sort of out of the houses, to have events there, have maybe sort of a show or a gallery. So you can be seen there to kind of look at things that you've never done before. And I think what's interesting is I think China and the US relatively also, it's the same thing. Everybody's watching, Netflix. But I think there's more sort of the return to cinema for those countries. And it's in particularly Korea where audience is not, watching a lot of movies in the theaters. So I think these kinds of cultural centers really promote cinema. So I'm kind of hoping that, sort of the younger people, if they're sort of like, they do a lot of tours to these areas as part of their education, would start to feel really different. And I think if you go to London, for example, there are a lot of like small theaters all around the suburbs, and you can tell that it's a country of Shakespeare because they really promote theaters. And I think we have to kind of do the same thing in Korea. We have to kind of educate our sort of the youth, and also sort of, you know, even because we have a lot of older people in Korea as well. And I just remember, you know, there'd be movie theaters near Chungmuro. Now it's gone, but basically, you'd have old people just kind of just hang out in the movies, and I think. We could really use that again. And so the pattern of behavior that we've gotten used to where we're watching it on television or on streaming service has to change. And we want to like have people come out to celebrate movies. And also the great thing about watching it together is that you kind of, you know, you could feel the pulse of the other people around you and kind of enjoy the fact that what you're feeling is also felt by millions.
Oh, definitely. Especially me, like when I watch something, I want to enjoy with everyone. So like I don't like watching something that's very good by myself because I want to share that emotion with everyone around me, or like, you know, it could be friends, family, or even in theaters with other audiences.
I have to agree with you, Bella. For instance, when you watch horror movies,
Oh,
you want
yes.
to share
Oh, yeah.
that fright with other people together,
I
scream
know.
together. If you watch something very fun, you want to laugh together.
together.
If you see something sad, you want to cry
I
together.
know.
And on that emotional note, I'm going to ask you the last question, Professor Soh. How do you see Korean cinema evolving today? And are there any particular trends or changes that you think we should be paying closer attention to?
I think I've also talked about this before. I think we have to just tell better stories. I think Korean cinema was kind of stuck in this one mode where it was mostly action or thrillers. You know, a lot of bad guys and good guys fighting each other, like sort of, you know, a lot of the movies about that. But I think now there are more niche topics. You know, for example, this year they had that movie based on the Tony Award-winning movie, musical called Maybe Happy Ending. So they made a movie out of that. Also, a couple years back, there's a movie called Love in the Big City. So these are movies where it's about modern love, sexuality. So if we kind of develop better stories and also niche kind of subject matter that I think a lot of sort of like Koreans would be interested in watching in the movie theaters, I think we'll kind of draw them back into the theater itself. So I think we have to kind of do that. And also smaller budgets. Right now, the average Korean movie production cost is around 5 million US. That's too much in order to recoup that, we have to have like a lot of audiences come. But I think if you make the budgets like closer to 2 million or 1 million, you don't need like a huge surplus of people coming to see the movies, because you could have the initial sort of profits come in through the theaters, but you can also sell the movie to the streaming platforms afterwards. So we want to have a healthy sort of industry happening in Korea. That's the main thing.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Soh, for your insights. I hope you're feeling better next time.
Yeah, sorry about the coffee.
Oh, no worries. And you did mention maybe happy ending, but we are going to actually talk about K-contents for our special year-end K-content special next time. So see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Bella, as always. Have a great weekend and see you next time.
Yes, I'll see you back next time.